Welcome to the Ausländer. Welcome to a new episode of the Ausländer. This podcast that is for the people who is living abroad or has lived abroad for a certain time. Today I'm really happy to have here Oral with me. Welcome.
Hi.
Oral, it's originally from Turkey, Sinop.
Yes.
And currently also living in Athens,
Yes.
Greece. This is why we met. But eventually you've traveled quite a lot. You've lived in quite a lot of places.
Yeah.
So we will go through all of them. But I have the list here because it's a list. Like you lived in, of course, Turkey, where you were born, Kazakhstan, USA, Switzerland, Greece, and Turkey, which was you were born. You went back to Turkey at some point, or you just?
Yes, actually, I was born in Turkey, as you said, in Sinop. It's on the Black Sea coast. And when I was 8, my family decided to move to Kazakhstan. Actually, my father was there a year before us. Mm-hmm. We switched some cities in Kazakhstan, and basically I was there until my university time.
Cool.
So
yeah, I mean, I think we can go deeply into it. Like, Kazakhstan, it's not the typical, and it's maybe definitely the first person who does this podcast, and probably one of the most exotic ones, let's say like this. Not a lot of people lived in Kazakhstan, so
yes, I mean, when I moved there, it was 96. So, USSR collapsed in 91. So when we moved there, I was also young. I was 8 years old, and I was with my brother. And it was like a totally different world. It was my first flight abroad, like not even mentioning Turkey.
Okay.
So the whole stage, like I remember from like day one, like the whole journey, how it was so exciting for me.
So you literally grabbed your first flight in your life was with 8 years old to move to a new country, 100%?
Exactly.
Oh, wow. That's quite that's a move. Like, why? Why did you went out of Turkey?
My father is a typical like a donor master, you can say. Mm-hmm. Like he's preparing a food that is popular all around the world. But he was a bit struggling during his time in Turkey, and they were young when they got married. He got an offer. He was like on his own guy, like laid back, but like tried to work really hard, and the circumstances were not so good. And my mother's family is living in Germany, and they were really trying to help. I think at some point they give their house to us for free, not to pay the rent, and like it was tough times. But when he got an offer to work as a cook at a restaurant in Kazakhstan with the salary that he could not imagine at that time, he thought about it, and that's why he actually went there alone. Okay. Without us, just to see how it is. And after a year, he was convinced that we can come, and then it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting that. Well, first of all, that I didn't know that your dad was a cook, which is like really nice thing. I didn't know that the year that he was spending there before it was to try out the restaurant and seeing if he liked it or not. How it was. You are an 80 years old kid going from a half Arabic influenced country like Turkey. I don't know the part where you are like Sinop, half Muslim, half Christian, half a lot of influences happening, to a country like I don't know, Kazakhstan should be absolutely different from what it was Turkey in the 90s.
There was some family dramas before, and even when I was in Turkey, I remember that from the city that I was born, Sinop. We had to move when I was 1 year, which I don't remember, to actually Istanbul, and that's why my brother is actually born there.
Okay.
So I would say the issues with the family made him move. There wasn't such a great connection and good approach from them. So he was trying to basically save his family from all the things that were happening. But I realized after about even the religion party that you mentioned, I had no idea that there are other religions exist.
Of course, makes a lot of sense. It's an 8 years old kid.
Yeah. I was like first 2 classes in a city in Thracia, what we call Thrace, and it's like this little part of Turkey. And I was just trying to, look after my brother. We raised almost like friends, because it's just 1 year's difference. And I remember my father was trying to sell these donors in the streets with his car and stuff like that. I remember he was preparing them at home, and it was a nice time. And I remember once my mother, she was saying it a few times, but just go get the food from your father. I'm not cooking today, stuff like that. And when we actually moved, we were back in Sinop.
Okay.
So the third and the fourth class, I was there, and you become friends with the little children, and everything, and this movement thing, even from my childhood. I remember exactly the scenes. There was a truck with all our stuff, and there was these 2 girls that we made friends with my brother, and we had to go, and it was so sad. I was like, why we have to go? Why can't we just stay in one place? But I just understand that now when I look at the back, that was just the beginning.
Of course. You just understand these kind of things. As a kid, you don't understand why you need to move, and especially when you're settled down in some place and you have. Because at the early age, when you are 1, 2, 3 years old, you don't have that condition that binds you to be friends. Your center of focus is always the family. Then afterwards, when you start to have school friends, when you start to have things that complicates it even more. How it was entering to Kazakhstan in that sense, did you make friends easily?
It was a time that we had to be registered to my mother's passport. I think we had the first passports they had to do.
Okay.
And I don't remember. I think we had to go to Istanbul, and I don't remember even now if there was a direct flight or it was through Almaty, the big city. But all I remember that when we actually reached to the city, which wasn't Almaty, by the way, it was Oskamenogorsk. That my father met us, and there was a driver, and they were talking something, and the first word I heard was machina, which actually means a car in Russian, and I was saying to my father, it's funny what you remember. We brought you the racing machine, father. Don't worry. And they were laughing, and it was conversation in the car. I remember that my mother was a bit nervous because she also didn't know where we're going, but she was raised in Germany, so she was a bit accustomed to go.
She already did.
Yeah.
Okay, and. You talk about language, which is always one of the recurrent topics in this podcast, of course, because it's one of the things that always surprise. But majority of the people who I interview until now, they are people who did this movement at a certain age of their life. They were already grown ups, let's say like this. and it still impacts, of course, to not know a language. But as a 8 years old kid, did you even know that there were other languages in the world, in the sense?
I actually didn't, and it's really interesting that how I find out.
With a razor machine.
Yes, yes, it's a funny story. So actually, my parents didn't even know what to do with us, you know. But funny enough, there were some people who had kids with the same situation that we were. And one of them told us, like, okay, let's take them to the Kazakh school, which they thought the Kazakh is like close to Turkish, and we can learn it easier. And I remember there was a girl from like other families, a child, and she knew the language more than us. She was there before, but when I was in the classroom, I mean, even if it's Kazakh, it was written in Cyrillic, and to me it was like some kind of drawing. You know, it was really strange, and I had no idea. I just wanted to play and do nothing. You know, I didn't understand what they're trying to do until my parents decided to like hire a tutor, a Russian girl who came to our house, and she was speaking Turkish, and the idea was like for her to practice Turkish and for us to learn Russian, and that's how I start to actually learn.
What is the relation of Kazakh and Russian in like the ratio? I mean,
the thing is, Turkish is a Central Asian language.
yeah.
So basically, historically wise, we came from between these Ural Altai mountains. Yeah. And it's a nomadic tribes. I mean, somehow they moved to Anatolia and they thought it's a better land, and that's how their start to West start. But there were some, let's say, other nomadic tribes that kind of left. So the language was similar, and there are many communities that are coming from the same root. What we say or talk as a Turkish now, it's actually absolutely changed. The origin of it is what actually Kazakhs, Uyghurs, Uzbeks, Kyrgyz speak. So basically, when they talk, you kind of catch some words, but because they were under influence of Russia such a long time, they use Cyrillic. They add some Russian words, and it's really complicated for us to understand.
It is even written in Cyrillic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And funny enough, they have like 42 letters when we have 29 in Turkish.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So, you know, they have different intonation on letter, like N, it can be N, you know, K and K, like you really talk from your throat. And all these details were kind of interesting for us. But Russian, you know, it's totally different language group. Even though it's written in Cyrillic, it's like, but you know, in those countries, it's more popular to speak Russian rather than Kazakh people.
Of course, because of the Soviet Union.
But yeah, English, and they learn. I think this part is a bit sad. Their own language as a foreign language, and which is still happening now.
So it's right now there is a majority of schools right now teaching much bigger schools. Teaching in Russian than Kazakh?
Actually, you can choose. You can go to Kazakh school or Russian, but even if you go to Kazakh school, it's really common to speak Russian between you, between your friends. So that's and it also depends what part of Kazakhstan you are. Kazakhstan is a huge country. Yeah. It's 8th biggest in the world.
Okay.
So they have a huge, enormous territory.
Wow.
And like traveling from one side to another, it's like takes
population-wise
hours and hours. I think they're around 20 million now. When I was there, I think it was around 15 for a country like almost the size of Europe. You know, it's
huge extension for a population that it's rather small in that sense. It's interesting. I mean, of course, I'm super curious about Kazakhstan and all the area around Kazakhstan, actually, because it's I define it, and especially when we talk about it with Catherine, it's just like this area where we kind of see it like a gem that it's still undiscovered somehow. Not a lot of people traveling yet there, but when you see images from it and when you see whatever and food and everything, it's just like, wow,
Yeah.
you need to go there. I think it happened with Georgia. Georgia started to be touristic, more or less.
Yeah. The geography of Kazakhstan is mostly steppes. So it's a flat with lots of lakes and rivers.
Okay.
The more you go south, the more mountainous it gets. And Almaty is on the mountains of Tanshan, which is border with China. And they call it Alata also, which means big mountain. But the country is so huge that, on the west side, it's actually the end of the Oral Mountains, which is funny because my name is Oral, and there is a city in Kazakhstan with the same name. Can you believe?
Okay, that's the typical joke in school, no? For sure.
And, when they talk about my name, and my parents never knew that we will go there. And it's a totally normal name in Kazakhstan, which in Kazakh it means come back.
Really?
Yes.
So there is kids in Kazakhstan called the
I
same way
even
as
had
you?
a schoolmate with the same name. Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nice. I mean, I think I need to put the audience a little bit in a perspective. You know a lot of the countries where you live also because I normally say what is the profession of the people who come as guests.
Yeah, of course.
And you're actually a tour guide right now, kind of blogger, Instagrammer, social media related, also a lot related to traveling and to knowing culture.
Yeah.
At the same time, you work as a content moderator for a company here in Athens.
Yes.
But you do guided tours mainly in Turkey?
Yes. Like after my journey in Kazakhstan, basically, I decided to go to Turkey, and it was like I was there young, I was 16, and my parents kind of directed me to go to Turkey to study, and I chose tourism, and I was in the city called Aydın, which is Kuşadası, a really popular resort, and I studied guiding there, and together with the managing travel agency, but when I finished it, I didn't really have a huge interest to be in this field for some reason. And that's how my journey to USA started,
So you spent 8 years, which is mainly the elementary school in...
Basically from 8 until 16, I would say, the 8 years. And the reason why it's short, it's because the problem with the school system, and I told you that I had these tutors, but for them to give me to a Turkish school, it started from the 7th grade. So they had to jump me a few classes so I can be filled up with something, to do.
Okay.
So, because it was a kind of lyceum that was a bit successful in the country, I was in Olympiad actually for the languages, for Kazakh language. I learned it so well, the thing that I was thinking as a drawing. I had a teacher who discovered this side of me, and she said,
she potentiated.
I want you to be there. And I was in language Olympiads, and it's Olympiads between, it's called Olympiads, but it's not actually. It's something that related to public school physics, mathematics, anything that comes to your mind. And the idea was representing the school and the city and then the state and the whole country. So I was winning lots of awards until I was going to the Republican level. It was fun at the time. And I remember I had monetary prize. When I was 14,
Nice.
I guess.
Wow.
And it was cool. So I really liked it. And they were saying that like we are Einsteins at that time.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
we weren't, obviously. But it was like just some, fun thing to do. And I was offered to study in a Kazakh university to continue this field, study with a stipendium and everything.
All right.
But for some reason, we moved towards Turkey and we just declined the offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's okay for you, I propose we do the first break now, and then we jump to Turkey, back to Turkey, let's say after 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Sounds good. Welcome back. So we were just talking about your 16 years old Oral, going back to Turkey just after your experience in raising up and going to school in Kazakhstan, actually. So it was a family decision, or it was you alone going back to Turkey at that point of time?
It was me alone because my parents were still there back in Turkey, back in Kazakhstan. So actually, that's my kind of the start of my like solo life.
Okay, with 16, which is kind of an early age.
Yeah, actually, when I was in Kazakhstan, I was also kind of solo because the school I was studying was like 3 hours away from the city.
Okay.
So I kind of get used to it, and I was like, okay, let's do this. But the way how I get to exams and how I get to in Turkey was kind of a stressful time because I was in an exam that this was totally for like Turkish living abroad, especially Germany.
Okay.
And it was special kind of exam, and I had to go to Ankara for the exam, and my parents supported, like they were with me, but because the electronic version of like getting results were not so common, I had to like literally wait the envelope for the decision, and my parents were like, let's see it. Let's see if you get in. If not, you will come back. Otherwise, don't come. You wait for 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a bit interesting.
So it's, of course, they need to, or what they think they need to evaluate. It's that you go back to a country and they need to evaluate if your level is good enough to somehow enter university. But at what age? You enter at 16 at university?
Yeah, it was my first try. I think the issue was like with the ticket prices as well, like airline. It was not so cheap to travel.
Okay.
Like now,
But it's, because commonly here in a lot of countries, you enter university when you are 18. So between 16 and 18, we have these 2 years of preparation school for university.
Yeah, I was actually 17, let's say. But you're right. I was a bit early in the university, and I think I was the youngest.
Okay.
In my classroom.
You did this exam to enter a Turkish university at the
end.
It was the prep exam for saying which university you can enter and which not, or
the plan was like get the grades, but before getting the grades, you actually were able to choose which universities you want. But after a while, they changed the system. So you get first points and then you choose.
Okay. Yeah.
Which in my time, it didn't make sense because maybe you would enter to the university that doesn't need that much points. But I was lucky to get like to my first choice.
Okay.
But it was like totally up to my parents which city I would choose. Maybe, I don't know, I would have gotten to the university in Istanbul. I don't know. I had no idea what's going on in Turkey at that time. Yeah, with the study and like university system.
So you go back there, you get accepted.
Yeah,
because you studied university.
Yeah.
In tourism in
Aydın, in Kuşadası. So it's a resort kind of place, but like the city is like not far from it. The tourism part was in Kuşadası, and my parents, because I was alone, they bought a house, and I was like there alone.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
So you had the place to stay. You didn't
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to rent. Well, at least it's good, you know.
They
even-
supported me in that way, which was also a struggle in the beginning because they didn't want to. But then they thought like that's the best decision. Yeah.
How many years of university?
It was supposed to be 4 years, but I finished at 5. The reason why it got long because I was struggling with Turkish subjects.
Okay.
I couldn't write any like paper. It was like the main Turkish language and like the what we call inkılaptari, which means like the reform, the Atatürk's reform history, which is like mandatory in all Turkish universities. I was really struggling, so I had to like repeat 1 year. But I already start to know like English, and English was like I was passing English, where like majority of Turkish students were like struggling.
Okay.
So I had like the opposite approach a bit even in that time.
And at that point of time, so you are in university with 4 languages then, because you speak Russian, you speak...
I was speaking Russian and Kazakh, Turkish and English. Yeah, you're right.
4 languages.
Yes.
It's quite a lot for a 17 years old kid,
Exactly.
you know, like it's a big plus, especially in tourism where languages are desired as one of the most valuable things.
Yeah, but bear in mind, but that my Turkish was really broken at that time.
Yeah,
I was
but it's
at the point to like forget
But eventually
it.
with 4 years in Turkey, you are able to catch again probably.
I caught it back, but it took for me some years.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure, it was not easy for me to go back to Turkish because the only time I was speaking in Kazakhstan Turkish, it was only with my mother, to be honest with you,
family.
to nobody else. I mean, we got to a point with my brother that we were like more comfortable speaking Russian. Yeah.
And eventually you study these 4 years in there, and what happens? Like you finish university, you find a job in Turkey?
Actually, during the summertime, we had to do like a stage, like a
Internship.
Internship. So, if at first year that I like, first grade that I finished, I got into like really, really nice actual travel agency there, which I didn't expect. It was my first job in 2003, I think.
Okay.
And like some friends that I met there, they were like, tell them that you know Kazakh as well, not just Russian. And I was like, what would that help me to get a job? And they're like, just tell it. And actually they were so right. I don't know. The company seemed like they got excited about it, and they just hired me. And I got like first job that was like paid internship. And from that time I knew that every summer I will have a job. And I will work.
Yeah, of course, makes sense.
So during these 4 years I worked each summer different parts of like tourism at travel agencies. I even worked in like a shop that were selling like ceramic stuff for a couple of years. And we had to do like this guiding tour that's supposed to be like for 40 years, 40 days, I'm sorry, not years. That was mandatory, and we had to pay for it. And so I was like trying to get money to pay for it. Yeah.
So it's for getting the license of
the license for guiding in Turkey. It's after you finish university, you had to like prove the language skill as well. So you go to the government language school exam, and you had to like have a certain score, or you can show them like IELTS or TOEFL result. And I actually tried like a couple of times. I think like 2 or 3. First, I tried it with Russian. I didn't get the score that they needed. But funny enough, in 2014, when I was doing my military, I was like solving so many tests in English, so I passed it, and that's how I get my license actually.
So you did military in Turkey?
Yeah. But that's like after I went abroad to America and Switzerland, actually. So
Okay, so you finish university, and you said that's when it started in America?
yeah, I went to America because at that time it was really popular. What we call this J1 traineeship. It was like for hospitality students to go to different like hotels, resorts, let's say clubs, golf clubs, and just work there, work and travel, but a bit longer version. So I was there for a year actually, and I really, it was a good time because I was 21 when I finished university. So you can imagine, like from 16 to 21 at university, and then so I was in Miami.
Wow.
Yeah.
21 years in
Yeah.
Miami. Wow, okay.
Well, a drinkable age in America.
Exactly. The proper age to enter America in Miami.
Yeah. And then Lake Tahoe area in California, and like New York, upper New York,
Okay.
Westchester area.
Oh, nice.
So each was like for 4 years. But then I decided to go back to Kazakhstan from there. So I didn't stay in Turkey afterwards.
So you were Turkey, then you made 1 year in United States?
Yeah.
I'm from United States.
I went directly to Kazakhstan.
Okay. Let's stop a moment in United States just to make it a little bit in there. Like,
Yeah.
so you were literally working like 4 months in every kind of resort, or like
So
you
I
were
was
switching from one place to the other?
I was participating in the program, and basically for like a busy period, like when I was in Miami, it was like Christmas time, and they need like extra workers. Same goes for like Lake Tahoe area. It was a casino hotel, and I worked as a waiter there. It was a hotel that Frank Sinatra was like going through like I don't know, some kind of tunnels and going to the stage, and they had tours about it there. So it was really exciting, and to be there at 21 age. Actually, funny enough, but my brother was before me in the States. He was in Alaska, so he kind of
different style.
Yeah,
Not the same.
He told me like, it's cool, you have to do it as well. I'm like, okay, I will try it.
Well, I mean, United States, nearly everywhere it can get cold in Christmas season, but eventually Alaska, it's not the same as Lake Tahoe or Miami.
And the money that I earned, I really spent to like explore America. I made good friends, and I was really confident with my English after finishing and working in Turkey. I was like accustomed with meeting tourists, so I wanted it more. But basically what I discovered in America, that I actually need to do masters. That what I studied in Turkey is like nothing compared to what I wanted to do. So I was really, I remember I was at Stanford University, and my friend was studying there, and I really got inspired by what's happening there. So I was like, that took me like a huge inspiration to go like to do the TOEFL test appropriately and like apply. And when I went to Kazakhstan, I was like studying just to pass the TOEFL test. And imagine me being at my parents, like a cafe or whatever, and ordering books from America and just studying English, and they had no idea what I'm trying to do. But funny enough, in that time I met, maybe you know about it, but there were like volunteers, and it's called Peace Corps organization.
No, not really.
It's I don't want to tell like a lie here, but it's an organization for like young Americans to go to like underdeveloped countries, and they had to like work for a couple of years in harsh circumstances and teach English and stuff, and then when they go back to America, they get like promoted easily and get a better job in America. And I met them there, and I remember there was a guy called Tim, and he knew, like, we are in the middle of nowhere. We are in Tahoe, and we're in a party, And I meet somebody called Tim who knows my father back in Kazakhstan, and he was there. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, how do you know my parents? And he said, I'm a Peace Corps volunteer, and we are in your city in Kazakhstan. I'm like, what?
And you were in the smallest. The world is really fucking small. These kind of things are ridiculous. Like, you met a guy in a party in like Tahoe that knows how do you arrive that in a normal conversation?
He didn't know me, but he knew my parents. He said that's the only place we go to eat hamburgers in my city. So I'm like, is this place is like Cafe Doner where my father is like, yes, and I know your father, I know your mother and everyone. I was like, I was so just funny. There for a party, it was so random. And when I went to Kazakhstan back and I met the whole group of this Peace Corps volunteers, I was like, that's really cool. What are you guys doing here? What are you teaching? And I start to like find out like different part of Kazakhstan that is like I didn't know when I was small growing up there. And the coolest thing we have done with all this group is like we went to like a baptism, a ceremony, Russian style Orthodox, which is called Kreshenia. They do it in January, and it's like, let's do it. And it was like -35 and like going down on the ice, and it's so cool.
But that's just like the concept of like going back to Kazakhstan to be with an American group in Kazakhstan to do things that are Russian. That thing, it's just like it's so blowing your mind.
Like I think I would call that incident like the most crazy thing that I would not expect to know at all. Like to know somebody like, and I think it's called Incline Village. It's a very small place near Lake Tahoe, the northern Lake Tahoe, and it's close to Nevada, and it's a very small place. And I was just working there, and just a Ukrainian friend of mine said, let's go to this party, and it's like so crazy. Yeah.
That's the kind of stories why I do this podcast, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this kind of crazy things that happens when you travel around and you live outside of your country. It's just like where it puts yourself.
And another thing I found out through this Peace Corps group, that the orphanage system that the Europeans were trying to like implement in Kazakhstan, and how deep it went there, because in Russian culture, it's really normal to leave your wife just like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're drinking a lot, and like women are stronger as a character there. I've seen first time in my life like women drivers of a public transport in Kazakhstan, and I was like, okay, that's not something that in Turkey do like woman does. But so the idea, what I'm trying to say is like there were lots of kids without parents. And there was a girl that I knew as a Kazakh, and she speak very well Spanish. And I was impressed, like all these Spanish-speaking countries, Americas, like coming there because Kazakh laws were allowing them easier to get adoption. I was like, what? I was like, I had like shock after shock, like what's happening in Kazakhstan, like, and how close it got. But at some point after all this happening, I noticed like after a few years, the Kazakh like system just blocked them all, and they're not doing that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was. I remember the point of time, especially. I have an adopted cousin, and he's from Russia, and I know the whole process that my uncles passed through to get the adoption, and it was really complex back in the time. And I know, and I heard from stories that there was other countries referring to maybe not Azerbaijan, but Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and all of these parts where it was easier than the certain processes in certain places.
The thing is, where we start to live from 99, it's a really small city. It's called Petropolis. It's only 200,000 people living there.
Okay.
And in that city, having like this organization it really
big
like
thing.
surprised me because it's not a capital, it's not a big city, it's just a border city from Russia. It's a small place, and at 22 years I was like, that's really cool, like how things evolve so quickly, and it is a good thing that they're trying to do, of course. Yes. But at the same time, all these kids are going and they're becoming Americanized, or they will never come back.
We do the second technical break, and then we come back to Kazakhstan, and then we still have Sweden and Greece in there, no? So we still have something to talk.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We are back. You were just talking about your coming back from crazy stories of like a lot of connections in the world that you never imagined. So you decided at some point that, so you had clear that your internship experience was 1 year in United States, but from there you could come back to Turkey.
I could have, but at that point, my family actually had a kind of partner, and they kind of expanded their business. So my father thought that I would be helpful for the business, and that was exactly the time that my time in America kind of finished, and I decided to try it and like help my parents with the business. But on the back of my mind, as I told you, I wanted to do masters, and I was like studying TOEFL for that. So I knew that I will leave at some point, and I convinced my parents that I will study more.
So you eventually went back to Kazakhstan to help your family, but at the same time in a preparation for a TOEFL, for studying further, let's say like this.
And that's how I end up in Switzerland.
Okay. So how much time it happens between going back to from USA to going to Switzerland?
Well, I came in the beginning of 2009 to Switzerland, and to Kazakhstan, and it's just 1 year that I stayed in Kazakhstan, and I was in 2010 in Switzerland and I applied to everything from Kazakhstan, and it was a city called Kur. It's a Canton Graubünden, and it's a public university. And there is actually a funny story how they found me. In TOEFL, there is an internet-based or IBT they call, and there is also the one that you write with the papers, like written.
Physical.
Yeah, physical. So I went for IBT to Almaty, which is like 36 hours from where I live in Kazakhstan. And it was crazy. So when I was filling the form, I think they could actually write some universities that you want them to see your results.
Okay.
I mean, that's as far as I remember. And funny enough, for me to go to the TOEFL is just to see my level, to be honest with you. And I got a good grade on speaking, and the rest was like kind of okay. I don't remember exactly what grade I got, but it was something around 75 and 80, which wasn't like enough for America. But in 2008, when I was in America, I was introduced to the Facebook for the first time. Okay. That's like the time that, Facebook kind of started. And when I went to America, I kind of like continued to use it. But why I'm talking about Facebook now is that the university in Switzerland contacted me through Facebook.
Through Facebook, a university contacted you. Okay.
And I was like...
LinkedIn was not existing.
Yes. And I was like, what's happening? Are you fake? Like, is it real? And they were telling me like, they had to send me like the proof that they saved my results. And that's how I got convinced that, these people are not lying.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That is crazy. It just like sounds some spam thingy.
I was like, there's no way, you have this paper that's from, my
But you
TOEFL
put
test.
that university to be...
I just put randomly probably, and I put that university and I forgot about it because like 6 months or something passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
You went in a university in Switzerland doing a master because you're randomly in a TOEFL that you want to test yourself on which level of English you are. You put random universities in it.
Yeah.
And they contact you through Facebook.
Yes. They didn't know how to contact me. I don't know how they found me in Facebook. It's crazy. And there were some universities in Australia and UK. I just didn't know which one. I mean, my goal was to go back to America, but obviously my points weren't enough. And when the guy started talking, I asked him to do like Skype call and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he said, I said, I want to do a master's. Do you have it? I went to check their website and he's like, no. But he's like, next door, it's really funny, this part. It's like, next to us, there is a university. It's called Hatevekur. And, they have, the master part. And this is the email. Maybe you can write them. And they will
so it's not even the university who contacts you on Facebook. It's the university close to university who contact you through Facebook. Oh
yes.
You know this contract of Marx Brothers films?
Yeah,
That's exactly this thing.
This is how I found out, ended up in Switzerland. And when I wrote them email and they're like, yes, we can accept you. It's fine. Your grades are okay. And at that point I said, I need the support financially. So I asked my parents and they did it.
Which
and
master
it just
was
went,
it? Which master was it?
It's called MSc, like Master of Science with Major Tourism.
Okay.
It's a public university. Very, like, the level of education is really high in Switzerland.
Switzerland is high, yeah.
And for me, imagine, like, going from Kazakhstan to Switzerland, it's like going from minus 100 to plus 200.
Yeah,
it's
but
like
you lived. I mean, in between, that's something that I always put in consideration. Yes, I agree. It might be hard to arrive to the level of education or the level that they are requesting you to be. But I'm pretty sure at that point of your life, a big amount of your colleagues in the master never traveled lived in more than 2 countries.
Like, to correct you, I all my colleagues, like, they never even go to master. Like, they're like, why you are doing this?
No, but eventually when you arrive to Switzerland, what I mean is that you enter to Switzerland, yes, higher education. You understand that as a higher education system. You at that point of time, you've grown up in Kazakhstan, learned 4 languages at the age of 17 years old, went to university in Turkey, did an internship year in the United States, went back to Kazakhstan to support your family, learned doing a TOEFL, went and entering to Switzerland.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people in Switzerland are doing that amount of things before arriving to a master.
Exactly. You're absolutely right, because for them it's like just the next step.
You finish university and you go directly, no?
For me it was like such a big a change and like trying to do something. The only motivation that I had is like I need to do master and I need to do it after like having a bit of working experience. But that place in Switzerland really taught me a lot about like tourism world. I didn't finish it, to be honest with you, because I didn't know how to write thesis before.
I don't have a master. So.
Yeah. In my bachelor degree, we didn't need to write thesis. I mean, we wrote some papers. So, and at that time, I actually had some problems with my dad. At that time, I just wanted to escape. But the whole journey, the whole experience was like super amazing. I tried to write a thesis about like halal tourism, which is like Muslim coming to the Switzerland, and I met like incredible people that we did like projects together. It's something that I have to actually finish, and I'm kind of like considering it like
To
do
finish
it
it now.
like later, even like
Still?
from this time. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Can I ask you a question? Because I know Switzerland
Yeah.
a little bit.
Sure.
Shock. Coming from Kazakhstan to Switzerland, the clean, polite, structured way of Switzerland. Was it a big shock for you, like eventually?
It was like a dream. Like I remember like
The streets are clean.
yes, I came like through Tallinn, through Riga, and there was a flight. And the first time I took a train and I was like watching the nature there, I thought this is unreal. Like I don't know where I am, but this is amazing.
Why is everything so green?
Yeah, it was like, is this real? Like, what, am I seeing everything correct? But you get used to that beauty, and it's just fascinating, like how beautiful a country can be, and in terms of like tourism, what it added to me, it's just incredible. But I have to like congratulate my parents just because they had always a vision to say, like I did. Like my father said, like I did, explore a place, just go and explore and see if it's for you or no. I mean, the more you see a place, the more you get an idea that you had never before. So.
Every country is so
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Right?
So I still have like good bonds with Switzerland, and I might actually go there again.
Okay.
I'm still considering. There is a company that's like trying to work with me, but it was a like kind of a time that I wouldn't say like expert, but like going to the level of like doing it in a better way. And it was a good choice, and I think it was much better than like going back to America, and it's just how life put me there. I'm just grateful.
So at what age do you finish the master? You quit the master in there, and why do you quit the master in there?
It was until 2013. So about 2-3 years, and I was how old I was. So around like 25, 26. And the reason I mean, the bureaucracy, of course, being a Turkish citizen or living in Europe is not so easy but with this visa,
about Switzerland bureaucracy, which is not the easiest one in the world.
I think it's the hardest, in one of the hardest, let's say. And they didn't allow me to work there. That's the biggest reason I left, because for me to get working, let's say officially working, it was like a lot of work, and I was like, it's not worth it. A lot of people told me like you should have stayed, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna like struggle with all this bureaucracy that they are trying to like impose on me just because the rules are like that. But now I'm thinking a bit different. Like as I told you, I might go there again. Yeah, but at that time I didn't feel like it's a place for me to like live and like continue my life.
What happened afterwards? Is that the step where you come to Greece, or you go back?
Actually, after that, I decided like kind of like go back to Turkey and like do my own profession, like do guiding and what I love and what I learned in Switzerland.
Is that the moment that you take the tour guiding license?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like that's when I did like this. Because in Turkey, in order to work officially, you need to do like your military service, and I just decided to do it and just moved to Istanbul, and that's when I started to live in Istanbul, and like I was working as a concierge in a hotel, and like being like most accustomed with like the Turkish tourism part and get my license, and like after so many years that all of my student like friends from school like being in the industry for a long time. I was like a newbie, but still like willing to do it until 2016, which is the part that I came to Greece. Yeah.
Okay. I would suggest we do the last break now. We talk about Greece, your experience in Greece, and then we do the last two questions and we close up the episode.
Yes, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So you were just saying you came to Greece after taking the whole like part in Turkey of becoming a fully experienced tour guide in Turkey, doing the license.
Yes,
you came
yes.
in 2016.
So I started to be honest, a freelancer at the time, and I was like, this is really cool. Guiding is cool. People are appreciating the languages I speak, and I get paid well, and I just, and rented a new house in a cool place in Istanbul, and like being on my own, this is really cool. But and the knowledge you have is like being a bit patriotic. Not even growing in Turkey, I was like, okay, let's do it, like for Turkish tourism, being excited about it. But there were a lot of like political events happening in 2016 and even before. There were lots of bombings, and there was a time that the friends of mine that I went to America together with, and one of them happened to be a guide as well. And I remember she told me a story and she was guiding on Istiklal Street, the most in Taksim, it's really famous, that she saw someone like exploding himself and stuff like that. It was really, 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 really hard, and it's like not something that you would actually know how to cope with.
Definitely,
It was really hard for me, and plus the coup attempt that happened in 2016, it was really, really hard for me psychologically, and I was like, enough. What I'm doing here and why I'm here, why I have to like go over the stress. And when I talk like this, I might sound a bit selfish, but because some people have no choice and they have to go through this, that they live there.
Yeah.
But in that time, I had this offer from Greece, and I was like, let me go and see and just calm down for a year and see how it's gonna go, and I might come back. But that's when I discovered how great Greece is, and I just fell in love with Greece, and I'm still here. Greece was a country that I was always thinking like, hey, it's a neighbor country, I can go anytime. But all this like psychological pressure that people had got through, and I'm just one example. And a lot of people were like suffering from this psychologically. It was really hard to like process and like be okay, and not like just you are so accustomed like not to surprise anymore, because everything you hear is like even worse and worse. That was a tough time for me, and then I made the decision that I was like, it's not for me. I tried my best, but maybe it was the wrong time. Maybe it was not for me.
But eventually you were saying like, this is selfish, but at the end it's true. Like, you have the opportunity to do it. There is other people who doesn't, but that doesn't mean that you are capable of taking the decision. So if you are capable, a lot of people who right now doesn't have this capability of doing this decision would, if they were in your same position, they would have taken probably the same decision as you did.
Probably, yes, because having such a background as I did, and I was like trying to support many people that I somehow see that they have potential. I was like, do this, do that, and they're like, their box, the view of their vision of the world was so small, that I was saying that, I was trying to be in an encouraging part. It's like nothing can stop you. I mean, having Turkish passport doesn't mean anything. You can apply, you can do this, you can do that. Like trying to open the vision of people that because you can see potential there, you know. And I'm not a person like as an influencer in that term, but when you just even talk, like have a conversation, have a chat, and then saying my life and what I did, I was like, this has just happened by a little decision and by some reasons how I came here, but this is not what I wanted to have. I mean, the situations.
There is more. It's more forced than.
It's become a bit forced. But when I kind of like discovered my inner psychology and like everything what I went through in Greece as a peaceful place, I decided to stay here. Not because I'm like in love with the country, but mostly because this is what I want to do after this. I don't want to go through that again. I know that everything is going well now. I mean, now I go back to Turkey and do touring, guiding more than I did when I was in Turkey.
Yeah, crazy.
But there's a difference when you actually live there and when you're not. You know, it's
definitely
it's a different story. But it doesn't mean that I'm like kind of cut from the culture. I live really close. My mother is living still in Turkey. My brother and my father is still in Kazakhstan. Like nothing has changed. But in Greece, I can say like I found like my inner peace that I haven't found in other countries so far. Yeah.
5 years already in Greece.
I have been here 6 years. 6. Yeah, it's going to be exactly 6 in December. So
okay.
But who knows what takes me to the next road? But I'm at the age that I'm like want to like more control of my
create a base.
Yeah, exactly. Which I couldn't like since I was 1 year old. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you explained the whole story of your life right now in this podcast, so we can clearly see that. 6 years in your life, it's a lot of time.
It's too long. Yeah.
Actually, it might be the time that you lived
the longest.
The longest besides Kazakhstan, 8 years between 8 and 16.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. Like it's a lot of movement, a lot of going back and forward and whatever, and it's not your decision. The surprising me part for me first, it's like the first movement that you do because of work.
Yeah.
It's the first time that you move to a country because you have an offer in Greece and you move into that. The second thing that surprised me in that it's the first time that this decision doesn't comes from an inner integrity of trying to do something.
Yeah.
Of course, the first movements, Kazakhstan, going back to Turkey, whatever, are strictly familiar because you're a kid. You are underage, and that's absolutely normal. But going to United States, going to Switzerland, going back to Turkey, going back to Kazakhstan, or choosing to go to another place, this is the first time that you go out of a country because of surrounding things, not because of you.
External factors.
External factors that are forcing you to say, hey, I need to escape this thing.
Yeah.
And in this move, you find your inner peace.
Yes. So, as a recommendation for people who are maybe trying to, I don't know, move or trying to be expat, is just the thing that I always followed is just how I feel and what my inner voice said. It never like kind of felt me off or. The funny part is like you go there and then you find out why you were there.
Definitely.
And it takes you like a couple of years to find out why you actually came. Like why I was in Kazakhstan, why I went to Switzerland, and why. So all these whys can be explained if you just analyze a bit, like go a couple of years. and actually I found out that by DNA I'm like half Greek, that I'm
Really?
in Greece as
Okay.
well. That's another fun fact. Because where I was born is like used to be a Greek city, which blah blah blah.
This
Yeah.
whole topic of Turkey and Greece, which put me really nervous, guys. Like, stop this. I mean, you're the fucking clear example of that.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
be honest. Like, put your fucking shit aside. You are much similar than you think. You are much more close. You're fucking neighbors, and you treat each other like shit, especially from a government military
Yeah.
perspective. When it comes to normal population, people doesn't disrespect each other that much as they do governmental wise. It could be so easy to understand each other.
It could be, but imagine even me, myself, struggling even with my parents about this topic. And when I found out that I'm half Greek, can you see, like, can you imagine what face they had? Like, this means that, like, either my father or my mother is like,
Had relatives.
some of them, like, 100% Greek, somebody there. So,
Which is not difficult.
it's not difficult.
It's not difficult.
Yeah, exactly. There's technology now. You can do tests. You can check it. But that's become kind of a mission of mine, like especially for the Turkish people or anybody actually comes across to say, like, you can be anyone. Let's just explore, but like let's just not believe the stereotypes what we hear. I mean, this is a hot topic going on, but clearly from the government perspective, as you said, it's something that they put in front of you to fight about, and just be the person who observes and like sees it. Just stop putting your emotions there or your nationalism or whatever. I mean, this is, as you said, I try to be example in that case. And on my tours, when I meet people, I say, guys, I live in Greece. I'm Turkish. This doesn't mean anything. I try to explain them how open we are and how Turkey was like a cradle of civilization. All these people used to live here. We're not, nobody is like truly Turkish. Nobody is like, look at the life I have. Like people here who thinks they are 100% Turkish. It doesn't work like that.
It's literally impossible to be 100% Turkish. It's the same way that it's 100% impossible to be 100% French or 100%. We mix so much in everywhere that it's literally impossible that if you do a DNA test, your 100% says you are 100% German or 100% French or 100% Turkish or 100% Persian.
Yeah, exactly.
It's impossible. It's fucking impossible.
Yeah, the same conversation goes for the Greeks who live here and the Turkish who live there. But in the end, I choose a place that I feel the energy, the inner peace, rather than all this conflicts. I think they are just temporarily. They will come and go. What stays is like the relationship and the conversation and the good vibes that we have with the people that is around us, and doesn't matter the sex, language, whatever the person is. I mean, the humanity goes beyond it.
Can I will make one last question before jumping to the last two questions of the episode. Are you seeing yourself into living into Greece right now for a long period? And if yes, what is the benefits of, like, what is the thing that captivated you from Greece?
I think the most thing that I think that is admirable about Greece is it's something that it's hard to describe. I have to say, but To answer your question, yes, I see myself living here for a long time. Even if I go from here somewhere, I see myself being a
Returning.
grandfather or whatever,
Okay.
old person living in Greek islands. I don't know why.
Okay.
Maybe it's a connection that I established through the like self-realization part.
Okay.
Maybe it's the people. Maybe it's the energy that I feel here. But honestly, I'm not looking to move. I need to have really, really good reasons to do it. I mean, the only place that I could possibly consider, which is under question still, is Switzerland. But it's again for my career to do the stuff that I wanted to do
wise, not because of life.
in a quicker way.
Okay.
But it's not the end goal again. I mean, the end goal, I mean, will be still staying in somewhere close by here. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as you said, it's a 6 years that I stayed with my own decision for a long time. And I think the whole environment, the expat community, the people, the food, I don't know. I mean, it may sound very similar to Turkish culture, but it's different. There is a part that, you can separate clearly, that I can see it when I start to live here. Of course, there are future plans that I want to do. I want to be more freelance again and do like things that I want to do. But to get to that level again, I need to. I have some other plans to do, like maybe buying real estate here and then, I don't know, being freelance again. And going back to doing guide, which I love and I have passion about, because I love history, I love archaeology, I love art, I like so many things, and the connection that I found between these cultures, and like when I dig in the history and like put it up again, and it's just, I have so much enthusiasm about it, and the passion that I have, like just to give it away and explain everyone so everybody knows, and it just makes me happy. Yeah,
makes sense. So you're still like kind of feeling, and that's a extra question, like a kind of magic increase.
Yeah.
Didn't feel.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe there are other countries that would make me feel the same, but so far, I wouldn't have any hesitation to stay like further here. Maybe, I mean, it's close to Turkey, and I can go really like back and forth. I don't know. I mean, as I told before, like I feel inside that this is the place to be, and I just want to continue having this experience over and over.
Nice. The two last questions that you already know, like to close this episode. First one, any specific general, whatever you want, recommendation to people who wants to live into the countries that you lived, or people who wants to take the decision to finally live abroad?
First of all, like if they have made a decision and they're considering to go somewhere for whatever reason, study, work, I think the best thing will be not to question it too much, and just to do whatever you think you need to do to go there, and like make a decision or have analysis while you're there, because the prejudge part may stop you for many things that you think that is not real when you actually go there. I think just go for it. You just do it. I mean, the opportunity is there. Just do it to see and then analyze how you feel about it. I mean, for this, of course, it's really good to like approach the expat groups who live there, people, friends that can give you recommendations. But I think the power is in you. You just do it and go and like just be open to meet people. And the more people you meet, the more familiar you get to the place. Language is a good part. Like try to learn the language. If you don't learn the language, try to know the culture and everything. That you need to find a connection. Like if you don't find a psychological connection to a place, it's not gonna work. So that emotional connection is very important for a long part. But if you have a plan, like just as a temporarily plan, just to do your career plans or something else, you may see the country as a temporary place. But then again, you will not build a connection. Yeah,
definitely. I completely agree. I mean, I understand the people who goes to a place with the idea this is my Erasmus or this is one year of being here. Anyway, I think it's worth it to make a little bit of an effort to learn what is going on there.
Yeah.
Because 1 year it's time enough to learn a lot of stuff in places. Second and last question of the episode today. Yeah. Any personal projects, friends, family projects that are going on right now that you want to use the platform to promote?
Yes, and it will be more about guiding again. Of course, to the listeners, I would recommend them to follow me on Instagram.
They will do that, that's for sure.
Yes, so the guiding and the promoting of like the branding of Turkish Go Turkey, what we call. I'm really working for that, and I'm trying to promote like the remote areas that are not so much seen. And that's not the only thing that I do. I mean, there is a project that I will also work with the local Greek agencies to promote like the landscape of Greece, and like doing it also like internationally. So taking tourists from Greece to like different hiking areas or like natural beauties. I'm working on it. And plus, if this will happen, there is also a project to be a part, like invest in a company in Switzerland that is will give me like shares of the company. So I will be like doing that there as well. So probably in like 5 years, you will see me like between the 3 countries and doing like lots of different stuff and being like a real freelancer, like to build in the end like my own brand and just separate everything and just do what I wanted to do. But in order to get there, I have to like go through the kitchen of it, let's say. Yeah,
the building process. Yeah, you hear that, like follow Oral on Instagram, of course the hashtags and the accounts will be available in all the social media as always, on YouTube, on in all the episodes in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast even. I always recommend everyone, the beauty of this podcast, this second season, it's the video. It is here. We have cameras here who are pointing everywhere. Just come and check. The reactions are the best part of our human interviews face to face. Go and check Oral Instagram, especially. You are really active member in there. On top of that, there is kind of the movement already on the guiding tours on Turkey.
Yeah.
The rest of the projects will come. So follow him, and it will happen eventually. If you are right now a person who is considering to go to Turkey and not only visiting the typical places and whatever, hey, you have a guy now, so go for it. Oral, it has been a big pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
It was really, really nice to have this podcast with you. Yeah, I feel like it was really friendly atmosphere, and we talk about different things. I hope the listeners enjoyed my little adventures until this time.
Little, it's calling it really relative little. Thank you again. And yeah, we live in the same city. We're so into each other.
Yeah, of course.